interviewing Mrs. Matalon. Mrs. Matalon, I'd like you to tell us about life in Jamaica when you left St. Andrew. Because when you left St. Andrew, this would have been in the 1930s.
1933.
1933. So what was Jamaica like?
Well, you know, I really was a very privileged girl. So it's not right to ask her how Jamaica was. I lived in the country at the time. No, I didn't. I lived in Kingston at the time. But I went away in '34 to University of Pennsylvania. And I really was going to do journalism. I don't know why, because that really was not my choice. Had I known what I would have wanted to do, it would have been teaching. I loved teaching, but I didn't know. Anyhow, I was very homesick in Philadelphia. I stayed with my mother's sister. My mother came from Philadelphia. And she told me that I would have to stay for a year. But if I was still miserable, I would come home. Well, needless to say, I was miserable. And I came home. And I got married right almost immediately to Manny Henriquez, which was the father of my two eldest children, Ace and Richard. But it did not work, and we got divorced very shortly after a couple of years. It's been over 4 years. And then I went back home with my little boys to Morant, which was very quiet for me because I was a young woman and there was no activity down there. We had a club and we played tennis and we had dances and things, but it was a quiet life. And I had become very good friends there. And then,
yes, you were saying.
Then after about I think it was about 6 years, I met my second husband, Evelyn Matalon, and we got married and we went to live in Kingston.
When you were living in Morant Bay, you came to Kingston. About how long did it take for you to travel from Morant Bay to Kingston?
It was about an hour, because we didn't have the traffic, you know.
Right. So you came by motor car?
Yes, yes. I used to drive. And I had friends in Kingston, you know, where I stayed. And then I got married, as I say, and we lived in Kingston. And then our first boy's son was born, David. And after he was just about a year, we went to live in Morant Bay. My husband took over from my auntie. It was our property. It belonged to my grandfather. It was a banana, coconut, sugar cane. And he took over from management from her because she was getting on in years and couldn't manage. And we lived in Morant Bay ever since, and I still live there.
You still live there, that's right.
We built a home down there.
So the property, were you exporting any of the crops, or was it just for local consumption?
The bananas and the coconuts were exported, of course. We went to Ellison Drive to banana producers. But the coconuts were sent to Coconut Industry Board, where they were made into copper and so on. You know, in those days, Sepron made all the fats and the oils that we used in Jamaica. Nothing was imported.
We were more self-sufficient than what we are nowadays.
I don't know what happened, why. I don't know. But they made margarine and the coconut oil that we used.
Did people ride bicycles a lot in those days?
During the war, we all rode bicycles. We had no car. We had no car in Morant Bay during the war. Our car was laid up, but we had no gas. And those days, actually, I had a horse. And I used to ride to the bank and collect the money for the pay bill.
Okay. That must have been quite interesting,
yes,
riding the horse.
Yeah. You know, It's fun looking back, but it's not fun when you're doing it.
So what were the popular music in those days when you were living in?
Well, the 50s, the 40s and 50s. I'm just looking at some the other day, you know, Slow Boat to China, and you know, those kind of things. Yeah. And we used to dance. We used to go to the Bournemouth Club. As a matter of fact, when I lived in Kingston for the years I was at school, we went to Bournemouth Bath every Sunday morning. And we swam in the pool. And it was lovely, you know, it was lovely. And we had the big building upstairs where we danced as youngsters and ate food and you know, yeah, it was nice.
And you didn't have to worry about crime in those days?
No, none at all. We used to ride our bicycles in the night, dark. We used to ride, you know, my 3 friends and I, we had a 4th friend that lived little further over from Downhill Avenue. And we used to ride up and down that road at night in the dark.
Yeah.
We had lights on our bicycles, not in the midnight, I don't mean that, but in the dusk.
Right.
And we'd go and we'd do our prep together and things like that. My 2 friends, Hazel and Jean and I, did all our work together, all our work together. We're 3 inseparable kids, really. We were always together. And if my mother took me out, she took the other 2, and the same with the others.
So did your friends go on to university when they left St. Andrew?
No, Jean, my friend Jean, went into Barclays Bank as a whatever, I don't know what they did, you know. And Hazel went away. She didn't go to university. She went away and she married. She was married here and they were divorced. She was married to Sam Hart and they had 1 son who went to Australia. And then she divorced Sam. And then she went to England and married an Englishman. And she lived in England for years until she died. And I used to see her any time we went to England, which was not that often, but every few years. We used to go on the banana boats. And it was 2 weeks on the small boats and 10 days on the bigger boats, they called Golfito and Comito. And I was sick nearly all the time, seasick. But I went, and every time I went, I never thought I was going to be sick.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Mrs. Matalon, I'd like you to tell us about the Gibraltar Refugee Camp.
Well, I really wasn't very conscious of the Gibraltar Camp until I married Zaki, my husband, who had his mother and his family had very good friends there. Miriam Stanton. You know, Miriam, it was a very difficult name. I don't know, it was a Polish name. And then she married Ben Stanton from England. He was English. They were engaged from the Fall War. They were Polish Jews who had escaped to France. And then from France, they escaped here to Gibraltar. And we were friends with Miriam and Ben. My husband and I and the whole family were friends with Miriam and Benny until they died just recently, a year or 2 years ago. I knew them all the time. Every time we went to England, we visited them. And so I didn't know really too much about it, except that I knew it was there. I knew that it had rescued many Jews from the Holocaust. I knew that Mr. Rary, was it Rary who ran it?
Rary?
Rary, Mr. Rary? I don't think so. And there was a very, I know Mrs. Miriam thought he was wonderful. He was very kind to them all. I don't know if everybody thought he was wonderful, but they thought he was wonderful.